All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking the 2024 party platforms. And look, these aren't just dry policy documents. They are literally blueprints for two vastly different Americas. One sees a nation that's in decline and desperately needs to be restored. The other sees a nation at a crossroads, ready to move forward. We're going to break down these competing visions piece by piece. Let's get to it.
It all starts with one fundamental question. What's the state of the union today? And as you can see, the answers could not be more different. The Republican platform paints this picture of a nation in serious decline. On the other side, the Democratic platform sees an inflection point, a moment of opportunity. This core disagreement, this diagnosis, is really the key to understanding every single policy difference that follows. So, if the diagnosis is decline, what's the cure? Well, for Republicans, it's all about a mission of restoration, and it's summed up in this phrase we all know. The platform argues this is more than just a slogan, it's about a return to common sense to correct what they see as a completely disastrous course for the country.
Meanwhile, on the other side, the whole narrative is about momentum. The Democratic platform's goal is to finish the job. The idea here is that the foundation's already been laid, the comeback is underway, and now's the time to build on it. Not, tear it all down and start from scratch.
Okay, so how would each party actually achieve their vision? Let's kick things off with the economy, because this is where we see two totally different playbooks for creating prosperity. The Republican approach is what they call an America First agenda. The idea is to fuel the economy from the top down. You cut taxes, you slash regulations, and you use tariffs to try and bring industries back home. Democrats, on the other hand, are proposing a bottom-up and middle-out strategy. Their focus is all about investing in things like infrastructure and the workforce to lower costs for families based on the belief that a strong middle class is what really drives the economy.
And this is where the rubber really meets the road. Just look at the taxation row. Republicans want to make their 2017 tax cuts permanent. Democrats, they want to raise the corporate tax rate and are promising no new taxes for anyone earning under $400,000. Now look at trade. It's a really clear choice. Tariffs versus global partnerships. And on labor, Republicans argue that things like tariffs and energy production are the best way to help workers, while Democrats are focused on strengthening unions and raising that minimum wage.
So, to really drive home that finish the job story, the Democratic platform puts this number front and center, nearly 16 million. They point to this figure as hard proof that their economic policies are working and that the country's in the middle of a historic comeback. Okay, let's shift gears now to an issue that's deeply tied to both the economy and national identity, immigration. And as we're about to see, the two parties don't just have different policies, they have fundamentally different ideas about what a border is even for.
Just look at the language here. It tells you everything. The Republican platform calls to seal the border to stop an invasion, which really evokes this feeling of crisis and defense. The Democratic platform, however, talks about securing the border and fixing a broken system. That implies a complex problem that needs both more enforcement and some serious reform. The words they choose, they reveal two completely different mindsets.
The Republican plan is laid out as a very clear three-step process. Step 1, complete the wall. Step 2, send thousands of troops to the border. And then Step 3, carry out what the platform itself describes as the largest deportation operation in American history. It's a very direct, sequential, and aggressive plan of action. The Democratic platform, on the other hand, proposes a much more multifaceted approach. It calls for more resources and tech at the border, sure, but it also talks about reforming the asylum process, expanding legal ways for people to immigrate, and creating a pathway to citizenship for those who came here as children. Next up, energy and climate. The choice presented here is really between two futures. One built on maximizing our current energy resources to achieve global dominance, and another focused on a massive transition to new forms of energy to fight climate change.
This three-word quote from the Republican platform, it pretty much says it all, right? The goal is to unleash American oil, natural gas, and coal production to achieve not just energy independence, but global energy dominance.
Now, the Democrats use two very specific words to frame their approach: existential threat. When you use a term like that, you're not just saying climate change is a problem, you're saying it's a crisis that threatens our very existence. And that framing is what justifies a massive, urgent, society-wide response. This slide just perfectly sums up the two endgames. For Republicans, the goal is to make America the world's #1 dominant energy producer. For Democrats, the goal is to tackle the climate crisis and hit net zero emissions by 2050. It really is a choice between maximizing production and minimizing emissions.
All right, let's turn to the issues that really hit close to home: healthcare, social safety nets, and those cultural debates that are shaping the nation. This is where the platforms reveal some of their deepest ideological divides.
This slide lays out the stark contrasts on some of the most personal issues there are. So, take Social Security. Both parties say they'll protect it, but the Democrats add that crucial detail. They want the wealthy to pay more into the system. On healthcare, Democrats want to build on the Affordable Care Act, or ACA, while the Republican platform focuses on choice and competition and doesn't even mention the ACA. And on reproductive rights, it's a fundamental clash over where the power should be, with the states or with the federal government.
And when it comes to education, the core disagreement really boils down to this: what's the role of government and where should the money go? The Republican vision is universal school choice, which would let public funds follow students to private schools. The Democratic vision is to invest directly into the public school system and to oppose those voucher programs.
So after looking at the economy, immigration, energy, and all these social issues, it's pretty clear, right? These aren't just minor policy tweaks. They represent two fundamentally different directions for the country.
Ultimately, it just comes down to this: two parties, two visions, two paths. One path looks to the past for inspiration, trying to restore a nation it sees as being in decline. The other path looks to the future, trying to build on what it sees as recent progress.
So which path will it be? The platforms have laid out two incredibly clear, compelling, but fundamentally incompatible visions for the future. The choice of which one to follow isn't just going to shape policy for the next 4 years, it's going to help define the next chapter of the American story. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.